Welcome to Study with the Best, the magazine show that's all about CUNY. I'm Tina Batfilia. Today's episode, we're going to take a look back at the most compelling stories of the year. From social media and the election to fiber art, it was a season of unforgettable segments. First up, out in Brooklyn, we looked at a species of parrot that's taken flight against all expectations.
I think New Yorkers, a certain class of New Yorkers have these two classifications of birds, the small brown ones and the big gray ones, what you and I call sparrows and pigeons. And then they are blown away to recognize the fact that there are these huge green birds, very large scale green birds, flying around in large flocks here.
Smaller than a pigeon, larger than a sparrow, but bright emerald green, fluorescent. When the sun hits them, they almost glow.
The monk parakeets that live here are of the group Myopsida monachus. Here at Brooklyn College, we actually have a population of these parrots that are living on campus, and then there are a number that are in the vicinity.
We do the safaris here at Brooklyn College because it's sort of one of the core colonies and one of the earliest colonies. It's why I sometimes say it's the parrots' Ellis Island. It's where they first really got notice. Reports indicate that something happened at Kennedy Airport in 1967 or 1968. There was some kind of release, either accidental or intentional.
I think that the population that we have here are, in fact, a group of animals that are escapees, the descendants of escapees from the pet trade. When North America was colonized, the East Coast here had an indigenous species of parakeet called the Carolina parakeet that was hunted to extinction. And so the idea that's been floated for these animals is that they actually had a niche pre-prepared for them here.
They were brought here to this country not because they wanted to fly to America, but because they were captured by people, you know, put into cages, put on an aircraft. Their destiny was to be in cages, but they busted out.
They actually spread from Argentina up into Uruguay, Paraguay, and a little bit into southern Brazil. They tend to avoid the tropical rainforest areas of Brazil. They tend to be a more temperate species. And that's one reason why they're well adapted to be able to live in New York, because they aren't actually a tropical species despite their green color. Technically, this climate should not be particularly good for them, but we find in modeling studies we've done that they do well inside of urban environments as though there's some kind of an additional buffer. So if you go a little bit outside of the city, you find that they don't do so well. But if you're going from urban area to urban areas, you find that these animals tend to reside there and be able to take advantage of their resilience.
They fit in to the point where you really don't need to comment on them. They're part of the natural landscape. So this is one of the happiest places for them right here in this undisclosed part of Brooklyn.
One of the most amazing things about these parrots is that they construct these enormous communal nests. Typically, parrot nests or bird nests are nests which are a mama bird and a papa bird making a bowl-shaped structure for just a few weeks. These are maintained over many years, and they're like condominium buildings where you have many chambers coming in, and throughout the year, rather than just for a few weeks, these animals add sticks and maintain and manipulate them.
They're always building. They're almost obsessive about making things perfect.
The nests can be thought of as information centers, either unconsciously or consciously. And remember, these are vocal species that do a good deal of vocal communication. They have this sort of recruitment process where all the birds come out of their individual nests, they'll gather on a roosting tree, they'll make a heck of a lot of noise, and they will then make a decision about which direction they're going to go off and forage to get their breakfast. The parrots go out into the wider city, they gather information, and then they come back together and they share that information with one another about food sources, about opportunities for resources, and so forth. This collective behavior is a very interesting topic, and I see the social structure of these animals as a key to that they're able to find one another, to assemble large enough groups and cooperate in food gathering that makes them a successful species. I think part of what happened over the course of our research is we got a greater appreciation and depth of understanding of the social complexity of these animals. So certainly they have influenced us in a number of ways in our thinking about them.
Nature's here. We're part of it. Look outside your window. Maybe unplug your headphones from time to time, or take your eyes off your cell phone. Listen, because we're part of this mystery. And I think the birds sort of bring that out, because it's surreal that they're here. They really don't belong here. But then, again, none of us really do.
I'm looking for the key sort of a phrase to say, you know, like humans can learn that we can all get along. But I think the thing is that we can all get along even in the face of different environments, changing environments, and ones that really maybe stress our capacity. We still maintain our humanity, and hopefully these parrots still maintain their parrotity.
This past summer, we learned about how fiber art focuses on the materials and the manual labor of an artist. Here's the work of 24 Taiwanese fiber artists at Queensborough Community College.
The exhibition, Rewoven Innovative Fiber Art, is an exhibition of 24 artists from Taiwan, as well as artists who are based in New York City. It was a three-part exhibition. One part was at the Godwin Turnbuck Museum at Queens College. The other was at Queensborough Community College Art Gallery, and then the final was here at Museo de los Sures.
Fur, bamboo, wrapping bags, thread and wire. These materials are transformed into paintings, sculptures, and installations that represent contemporary forms of fiber art.
Some of the materials that the artist used in the exhibition were such as Pen Ping Yu was using felt material to make the rice cake tower of happiness. That was cloth and felt and fabric material used to create a tall sculpture of New Year's rice cake-like objects that were brightly decorated, as well as her table piece, which used felt to create food-like forms of different kinds of objects, like dumplings and vegetables, and all of those were placed on handmade paper plates and bowls, which were very beautiful and delicately crafted. Hui Hui Su used beauty product face masks that she dyed and then sculpted them into forms, and then used a hardener on them too, so that they would hold the form which they were in. So she made a very large flower piece that hung on the walls, as well as flowers that stood on the floor, where it had reflective mirror bases, and so they were like blooming flowers.
The weavings of thread express the perspectives from the artist's life and the changes that are taking place around the world. Using their own cultural background, the artists incorporate the environment, nature, and social issues as main themes in the exhibition. For example, Ming Zhiguo tackled overdevelopment issues in his piece, Suburban Housing.
It's a plastic transparent pieces that the artist also dyed and put a little pattern onto the acetate with clear plastic piece and hanging from the ceiling and put it into a different way. It looks like a city jungle in there. But if you careful look the individual detail, that you will see that actually is a community housing. It's been developed, overdeveloped, very crowded situation, like the shape of the installations.
After viewing some of the pieces about the environment, you might find yourself looking at a series about individuality. In faux fur, the artist cut synthetic fur in order to mirror a three-dimensional landscape. The sign "Touch Me," hanging next to the painting, invites the audience to touch the art. Touching the surface changes the color and texture of the piece, thus projecting different scenery with each stroke, allowing for a theme of individuality. As you enter the center of the gallery, you'll encounter what was perhaps the most astonishing piece in the exhibition.
The piece is called Between Dreams. The artwork and directly, of course, nostalgia. Artists learn Lulu Anne She grew up from the indigenous in the East Coast in Taiwan, but very interesting that she chose the recycled material that from the supermarket that wrapped the fruit. And entire piece create completely pure white. Director just talking about very serious issue of that environmental harmful to the native land, especially in her tribe.
The exhibition received positive feedback after it was opened to the public.
Student and faculty really appreciated the exhibition. They were very interested in the subject matter as well as the process and technique of creating each art object. And so we had lots of visitors from studio art classes, history classes, English department classes who could use the exhibition for their courses in many different ways and just have great discussion in the gallery based on what was being presented and the topics that were presented in the exhibition.
These artists weave a world of creativity as a form of expression to redefine what fiber art is and emphasize the harmony and conflict between human life and the natural world.
Teaching STEM can be a real challenge for educators across the country. And I was lucky enough to meet one CUNY grad who's tackling this challenge head on.
I'm in motion, changing location, till it hits traction, the coefficient of friction. I'm off Newton, I'm on an Einstein. I like Einstein because Einstein's mind is like mine. All right? Music and art are the seedbed to creativity, and engaging in science on the highest of levels require your creativity to be activated.
Columbia University professor Dr. Christopher Emdin has been using hip-hop to teach science to his New York City students for over 5 years.
I use hip-hop because kids love hip-hop. I also use other things that kids love. I've used video games. I used to teach physics in the 9th grade in the Bronx. We would do video game physics. I mean, the idea is for the teachers to be creative enough to look at any phenomena that means something to young people and then highlight what is inherently scientific in that phenomena so young folks start realizing that science can actually be cool and connected to something that they love.
Dr. Emdin teaches several types of science to every student he can, from grade school through graduate school.
Tomorrow you might call me, I might be in a school in the Bronx co-teaching a 9th grade or 10th grade class. Tonight I'll be teaching some graduate students here at Columbia at Teachers College. I might just, pop up somewhere and engage with a 3rd or 4th grader.
How would you explain your teaching style?
I teach as an MC. I teach because I've mastered my content. I'm the master of ceremony and I have the intention to move the crowd. And so when I walk into the classroom, with an MC sensibility, then I have to make sure that the kids connect. Exactly what you just said, write that down.
What did I say?
I'm not saying that rap is the key to science. I'm saying that in rap are skill sets necessary for having kids engage in science.
It really is helping. I'm starting to, get back on track with my science. I actually sit home looking up different science terms before we actually learn them. And then I actually read the definitions and all that. And then I put them into my raps and everything.
Last name synthesis, first name photo. I stay energized like motion and loco. Energy in the perfect thing that stimulates. I'm vegetarian, the thing that I emulate.
Emdin's teaching style was honed early on when he earned his undergraduate degree at Lehman and went on to receive his PhD at the Graduate Center. What role has CUNY played in your career?
My CUNY education has been everything to me. I went to Lehman College in the Bronx. It was there that I discovered my passion for science. It was a local college, that it was in the Bronx, and it was a commuter college, allowed me to be able to still be on the street corners rapping and then go to class, which allowed me to realize that I could be a hip hop scientist. I learned that just because of how the school was structured and where it was embedded, that it was still in my community. I didn't have to go away. And so as I discovered my academic self, I still had to go back to the hood every day. And so I realized that I could be hood and academic at the same time. I couldn't have gotten that anywhere else. I got that at CUNY, I got that at Lehman. When I went for my doctoral studies, I decided to go back to CUNY for the same reason.
Emdin's CUNY born and bred hood and academic ways enabled him to not only be a New York Times best-selling author with his book, For White Folks Who Teach in the Hood and the Rest of Y'all Too, it also became the inspiration for his co-collaboration on Science Genius, a science rap battle that isn't about who's the best rapper, but the best scientist.
The more people I know, kinetic energy grows. So I'ma go to work, convert all of my potential, and as my speed increases, then I'ma go exponential.
Engaging in using music and art and culture, especially if it's the culture of young people, is in itself a way to be able to hone in on science skills. You're more reflective, you're more sort of theoretical in your approach to thinking about things. You have to be able to draw connections between things that are seemingly disconnected.
And it's that perceived disconnect that makes hip-hop and science education more effective for both teachers and students.
What kind of classrooms are successful teaching STEM?
Any class that does not dumb down the expectations of academic rigor while it increases the academic interest or the sort of natural interest and inclination wins. There has to be this delicate, beautiful balance. That's what my work is all about, and my work in science education, to help teachers to be able to get to that point that feels like magic, where the kids are super engaged, the content is functioning on a high level, there's good dialogue going on, and everybody leaves the class sort of more excited and more learned and more informed. That's what a magical classroom looks like, and that's what all science classes should look like.
The brain cohabitates with the mind to perform perceptions of its own kind.
So listen, we got transform, making different landforms. How does the landform, get it?
That's dope. Props.
In our music episode, we looked at a treasure trove of historic musical materials right here at the CUNY Graduate Center.
Music iconography is a study of images in order to understand music of the past. People were producing images since the earliest times. They were representing their lives, expressing their beliefs, a range of topics in which music appears in images is enormous. We can see which instruments were performing in this genre or that genre, instruments and their morphology, how performers were interacting with each other, relationship with the gender, how women were performing with men. We can see social role of music, where urban music was represented in a different way than rural music, and peasants were playing music during the work. This particular portrait is interesting. The original oil painting is at Metropolitan Museum. It represents 17th century castrato singer Pasquini. And it says, Apollo rewarding merit and punishing arrogance. Rewarding merit and punishing arrogance. So obviously Pasquini wanted to be represented in this way. But it's interesting that in 100 years later, when this print was produced, because this was a famous painting, in 1755, the caption under the portrait doesn't say anything about Pasquini. It gives a narrative that we need to be good, and then we will be rewarded. Each study is detective work on what was in the mind of the artist. Did he have agenda to manipulate the image, or it just happened that he forgot a detail and he improvised it on the spot? Images have to be always compared with written sources. Images have to be compared with other images. It's never enough to look just one image and say this is how something happened. Charles Burney, English historian, he was in Rome and he was looking at obelisk, which is now on Piazza Montecitorio, and he thought that the instrument is there, a lute. He was so impressed that he invited artists to take exact, precise copy in the exact measurements of the image. At that time, Egyptian hieroglyphics were not understood yet. So now we know that this sign, hieroglyphic, is actually Nefer, meaning beautiful, and it has nothing to do with music instrument. It's a representation of the hair and human heart. In many cultures, images can show us much more than written sources, because we just don't have written sources. Like in classical Mayan culture, there are specific types of vases which show music in mythological context, in rituals, in work context. And basically this is the main source what we know about music in Mayan culture. Music iconography is very close to music archaeology. For example, in China, there was not even a word for music iconography because so many of their sources actually come from the ground that were excavated in archaeological digs. So we work very closely with music archaeologists, and we overlap with methodologists. In the center, we have about, I think, about 10,000 reproductions of artworks from around the world. In 1998, I started a journal for music iconography called Music in Art. This is one of 2 journals in the world published on this subject. And here is the journal. For me, it's very important that scholars who published in the journal are from all around the world. And we have scholars from Pakistan, from Latin America, from China, from Thailand. What is exciting for me in music iconography is that you always deal with artwork. So you analyze the work, but you also admire artistry of the artist.
After the 2016 presidential election, we spoke with the man who coined the term viral media, Queens College professor Douglas Rushkoff, who warned us about getting our news from computer algorithms.
In an algorithmically concocted news space, the things we don't want to know about will go away. So if on the New York Times, if on the cover every week or so there's a story about global warming, I can choose not to read it, but it's there. I know I'm choosing not to read it. If I swipe left every time I see a global warming story or a climate change story, eventually the algorithm learns, oh, this guy doesn't believe in global warming, doesn't want to hear about global warming. We're wasting an impression if he's just going to swipe left on it, so we'll stop showing it to him. So the story goes out of my consciousness. If I don't want to know about the Afghan war, that goes away. If I don't want to know about black people getting shot, that goes away. But if I do want to know about white people getting shot, if I do want to know about black people doing bad things, then I start swiping on those, and now my whole world becomes racist. My news sources now become racist without the editors deciding to be racist. It's the algorithm conforming to what it is that I, at my most impulsive worst, decide what's right for me to hear, what's right for me to see.
Who does that?
My email box is filled with everybody wanting to understand memes now. Because they go, oh no, this is a meme warfare. This is memes fighting.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Could a meme be worth a U.S. election?
The billions that were spent on Trump were spent infecting the algorithmic news space with virulent memes, with ideas, and configuring them, personalizing, customizing each meme to the person it went to. So even if you were a Bernie Sanders begrudging Hillary supporter, because she won the nomination, the money was being spent just to get you as a Bernie Sanders supporter to feel worse and worse about the fact that Hillary was now your nominee, to get you to be less enthusiastic. So everybody had messages pointed at them, and I guess that those messages masqueraded as news. People have to exercise a little bit of discipline in how they get their information about the world. You know, they're going to have to decide if they really want to keep feeding that almost amphetamine-like rush of panic that you get stimulating yourself with an algorithm, or do you want to start living a happier, better life and contributing to the betterment of our civilization? You know, it's that easy a choice. If you like Walking Dead, if you really like it to the point where you want to go there, where that's where you want to be, living in zombie threat all the time, then go there. But realize that's where you're going to take civilization, that we really will go there. And it's so unnecessary that there's ways to experience stimulation that's much broader spectrum. You know, the stimulation of love, or a soccer game, or raising a kid, or riding a bike. And that kind of stimulation will serve you a lot better than reading a conspiracy theory. I think people will hunger for news the same way a really depressed person eventually seeks out psychotherapy, or a sick person looks for a doctor. I think there'll be such confusion and such despair, you know, as people really realize, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Is Trump the best thing to ever happen to the Times subscription strategy?
Trump is the best thing to happen to the Times subscription strategy. Yes, every time he tweets, it drives subscriptions wildly.
I think that there is going to be a last man standing. I think that, you know, The Guardian and BBC and New York Times and LA Times, and I think there will still be a few dozen important news sources. And maybe then if we, you know, focus our money and energy on them, then they can restore their agencies, news agencies in different parts of the world. You know, models like Associated Press, which is a co-op. You know, most people don't realize that. It's a co-op. It's owned by the journalists. You know, a model like that can start to grow as hunger for genuine news rises again.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories, log on to our website at CUNY.tv or check out our Study with the Best Facebook page. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next season.